You look like you'd snap if someone hugged you too tight, my mother laughed, sipping her coffee like she hadn't just carved another piece off my confidence. That was the first thing she said to me after not seeing me for 3 months. I had flown home from Berlin for the summer, hoping things might be different, hoping she might be different. But the house still smelled like cheap perfume and resentment. I stared at her, the same way I had when I was 12, back when her words still had the power to make me cry. Now, at 20, I just smiled, thin lips stretched across thinner skin. "It's good to see you too, Mum," I said, trying to sound normal. She didn't hear me. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. She kept stirring her coffee, eyes drifting over me the way a tailor studies a broken dress form. "You should eat more," she said casually. "No man likes a girl who looks like she could disappear." I wanted to tell her that I did eat, that I ate when I was happy, when I was scared, when I was trying to forget the nights I had spent in my dorm room crying over her messages. But no matter how much I ate, I never gained weight. My body wasn't broken, it was just mine. And she hated that. The old clock in the kitchen ticked too loud. The silence between us felt like a wound being reopened. I excused myself and went to my old room. Same wallpaper. Same cracked mirror. Same emptiness. The mirror reflected a girl I barely recognized. Pale. Fragile. Exhausted. Not from hunger, but from trying to please people who fed on her insecurities. I remembered being 13, standing in front of this same mirror when she told me, "You'll never look womanly if you don't put on some curves." Back then, I believed her. I tried everything: chocolate milk, late-night snacks, even weight gain supplements. Nothing worked. And when it didn't, she said, "You're hopeless." Hopeless. That word became my shadow. When I moved to Berlin for university, I thought I'd left that version of me behind. But even in a city full of people who didn't care, I found her voice echoing inside my head. Every time I looked in a window or changed clothes, I'd hear her: "Too thin. Too small. Too wrong." That night, as I unpacked, my phone buzzed. It was Elias, my boyfriend. "Made it home safe," he texted. "Yeah." Trying not to starve emotionally, I wrote back. He sent a laughing emoji, then a heart. Elias was the kind of person who saw beauty in broken things. Maybe that's why he saw me. I heard footsteps in the hallway, light but sharp. She never knocked. "Who are you talking to?" "No one," I lied. "You always were secretive," she said, voice dipped in accusation. "You think you're better than me now that you live in Germany?" That was it, the hidden spark under all her insults: jealousy. She left before I could answer, but not before adding, "You know, your cousin Mila just got engaged. Gorgeous girl. Curves in the right places. You could learn from her." I sat on my bed, fists trembling. There it was again, the reminder that I'd never be enough. Not for her. Not for her idea of beauty. Later, I went for a walk in the cold, damp air of late evening. The village was small: stone streets, flickering lamps, gossip behind curtains. I stopped by the river where I used to sit as a kid and tried to breathe. My reflection in the water rippled. For a second, it looked like it was fading away, like she was right, and maybe I could disappear if no one cared enough to see me. But someone did. My phone buzzed again. It was Elias. "Call me," his message read. "You sound off." I stared at the screen, torn. How could I tell him that every time my mother looked at me, I felt like less of a person and more of a mistake? I dialed. Before he could say hello, I whispered, "Elias, what if the person who's supposed to love you the most is the one teaching you to hate yourself?" There was silence. Then his voice, a soft, steady. "Then maybe it's time you teach yourself to love what she couldn't." And for the first time that night, I cried. "You're crying over a boy again, aren't you?" That's how my mother greeted me the next morning, like empathy was a language she'd never learned. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, soft and gold, but it couldn't warm the chill between us. I sat at the kitchen table, my eyes swollen from crying. She poured her coffee, humming to herself, pretending everything was fine, pretending I was fine. "I'm not crying over anyone," I said. "Of course you are," she replied, without even looking up. "You always were dramatic. Must have gotten that from your father." She said the word father like it was a ghost she'd learned to live with. He had left when I was 8, packed his camera, his books, and what was left of his patience. I hadn't seen him since. She never forgave him, but somehow, I was the one who carried his sins. Actually, I said, I was crying because of you. That made her pause. Just for a second, the spoon stopped stirring. Then she laughed, the kind of laugh that stung more than any insult. Oh, for God's sake, Helena. Don't start your nonsense so early in the morning. You've always been so sensitive. Can't take a joke, can you? There it was again. It's just a joke. The weapon disguised as laughter. I stood up. My voice trembled. You think it's funny to tell your daughter she looks like a skeleton? To compare her to other girls every time she visits? Her eyes flicked to me cold, unreadable. I'm just trying to help you. You look unhealthy. People talk, you know. I don't want them thinking I didn't raise you right. It was almost poetic. She cared more about what people thought than how her own daughter felt. Helping me? I said. You're destroying me. Her jaw tightened. You've always been ungrateful. She left the kitchen, muttering something about how modern girls love to play the victim. I wanted to scream, but the words stayed stuck in my throat, heavy and useless. I went out into the backyard, where the apple tree still stood. My father planted it when I was 5. It hadn't grown much, probably because the soil here was just like the house, shallow, bitter, full of stones. I sat beneath it and tried to breathe. That's when I noticed the old wooden box half buried near the roots. I remembered it vaguely. I used to hide little drawings in it as a child. I dug it out, brushing away the dirt. Inside were old sketches, a girl with wings, a smiling man with kind eyes, a family that didn't look like mine. On the last page, in a childish scrawl, I had written, "When I grow up, I'll draw myself a new home." I hadn't seen that line in years. But reading it now felt like finding a fragment of my old self, the one who still believed in better tomorrows. My phone buzzed. Elias again. Morning sunshine. Survived the mother monster. I smiled weakly. Barely. She thinks I'm sick because I don't eat enough. Should I send her your gym selfies for comparison? Please don't, he wrote. She might actually start liking me. I laughed. For a second, I felt lighter. Then his next message came. Come back early, Lena. We're planning something for your birthday. You deserve a good one this year. The thought of going back to Berlin, to warmth, to him, felt like oxygen. But before I could respond, I heard her voice calling from inside. Helena, come here. I went in. She was standing by the dining table, holding her phone. My stomach dropped. She was scrolling through my Instagram. Why are you posting photos like this? She demanded. Everyone can see how thin you are. Do you enjoy embarrassing me? I swallowed hard. They're just pictures, Mum. I'm not ashamed of my body anymore. Well, you should be, she snapped. You look ill. People will think I starved you. Something inside me cracked, not loud, but final. For years, I had begged for her approval, but what if I didn't need it anymore? What if I stopped letting her define what love looked like? I took a step closer and whispered, if love means tearing me apart to make you feel better. I don't want it. Her eyes widened, not with guilt, but with disbelief. You ungrateful little girl. She raised her hand, maybe out of habit. But I didn't flinch this time. I just looked at her, calmly, steadily, and said, I'm done. Then I turned, walked out of the house, and didn't look back. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear this time. It was freedom trying to breathe again. As I reached the gate, my phone rang. It was my father. Helena? It's your father. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The sound of his voice after 12 years felt like someone opening a door I thought had been sealed shut. I didn't answer right away. My throat tightened, and the world around me blurred, the wind, the birds, even the old gate beneath my hand. Finally, I whispered, Why are you calling me now? He sighed, a sound that carried 1,000 unspoken apologies. I've been trying to find the right time, he said softly. Your aunt finally gave me your number. Aunt Marin. Of course. The only one who ever stood up to my mother. I should have known. I walked away from the house, the gravel crunching beneath my shoes. My heart was a hurricane. You left us, I said. You left me. I know, he said quietly. And I'm sorry. But it wasn't the way your mother told you. That made me stop. What do you mean? There was silence, a long, heavy pause before he said, I didn't leave because of you, Lena. I left because of her. His words hit like a punch. My whole life, I'd believed it was him who gave up. My mother never let me forget that he walked away because he couldn't handle us. But now, standing there with my phone pressed to my ear, the story began to crack. She said you didn't want a family, I said. He laughed bitterly. That's what she wanted you to believe. The truth is, she didn't want anyone challenging her control. Not even me. I tried to get custody, but she lied in court. Said I was unstable, that I'd abandoned you first. She made sure I couldn't reach you. I stopped walking. My hands were shaking. All those years, the letters that never came, the birthdays without a call, they weren't because he didn't care. They were because she didn't let him. She told me you never tried, I whispered. I tried, Lena. Every year. I sent gifts, emails, even showed up once at your school. She threatened to call the police. His voice cracked. You looked so happy that day, I didn't want to scare you. You were drawing on the playground. My mind flashed to that memory, a tall man standing by the fence, smiling softly as I sketched the apple tree in my notebook. I thought he was a stranger. That was him. My breath hitched. Why no? Because you're an adult, he said. And because Marin told me what's been happening. I'm sorry, Lena, for not being there when she broke you. Tears burned behind my eyes. She says she was helping me. He sighed. That's the thing about your mother. She calls it love when it's really control. She needs to be the one who decides what's right for everyone. I sat down on the low stone wall by the road. The world suddenly felt both smaller and clearer. Where are you? I asked. Copenhagen. I moved here 5 years ago. I'd love to see you, if you'd let me. Copenhagen. It was only a few hours away. For 12 years, he'd been that close, and I never knew. I didn't answer right away. My heart wanted to run to him, but my mind whispered caution. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly. I don't expect you to, he replied. But I can tell you the truth. You deserve that much. Before I could respond, my mother's voice echoed from the house. Helena, who are you talking to? My pulse spiked. I stood up. I have to go, I whispered. Wait, he said, but I hung up, shoving the phone into my pocket. I turned just in time to see her standing in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Who was that? She asked. No one, I lied. She took a step closer. Don't lie to me. Her voice was calm, too calm, the kind that always came before she said something cruel. Then she noticed the tears in my eyes. Was that your father? She asked quietly. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Her face twisted, not with guilt, but with fury. You listen to me, Helena. That man ruined our lives. If you think he cares about you now, you're a fool. I clenched my fists. He said you kept him from me. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, she looked almost afraid. Then the mask slipped back on. Don't believe everything you hear. I took a step toward her. Then tell me the truth. She didn't. She just turned away and muttered, some things are better left buried. But I wasn't 12 anymore. I wasn't the quiet little girl who accepted her version of everything. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. My mother wasn't the victim of my father's absence. She was the architect of it. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It waits, quiet, patient, until you're brave enough to look for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every tick of the clock felt like a heartbeat I didn't own. I lay in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling, hearing my father's voice replay in my head. She made sure I couldn't reach you. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But years of my mother's words were like barbed wire wrapped around my thoughts. He left us. He didn't care. He forgot you. Could both be lies? Could everything I remembered be twisted? Around 2 a.m., I finally sat up. The house was silent, the kind of silence that held its breath. My mother's room was at the end of the hallway, door slightly ajar. Her light was off. I could hear her faint snores, steady and soft. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed to her old study. The door creaked as I pushed it open. The room smelled of dust and fading perfume, the scent of secrets. Papers were stacked everywhere, half-filled journals, old tax forms, family albums. I hadn't been allowed in here since I was 16. Private, she'd said. None of your business. Now it was my business. I opened the first drawer of her desk, bills, receipts, nothing unusual. The second drawer was locked. Of course. I almost gave up, but then remembered the loose panel under the desk. I crouched down, pressed on it, and there it was, the small iron key she always hid there. My heart pounded. I unlocked the drawer. Inside was a stack of letters tied with a red ribbon. The paper edges were yellowed, the handwriting unfamiliar but neat. The first envelope had my name on it, Helena, age 9. My hands trembled as I unfolded the letter. Sweetheart, I know you might not get this, but I miss you every day. I hope you're still drawing. I hope you know none of this is your fault. Love, Dad. The words blurred. I reached for another. They said you're doing well in school. I'm proud of you even if I can't be there. One day, I'll explain everything. There were dozens birthday cards, sketches he'd made, even a postcard from Paris where he'd been working as a photographer. All addressed to me. None opened. I pressed my palm to my mouth, trying not to sob. My mother hadn't just lied, she'd intercepted my entire childhood. Every word of love, every attempt at contact, she'd hidden it. Behind the letters was a folder labeled Family Court 2011. Inside were documents, custody filings, lawyer statements, even a witness letter from Aunt Marin. The last page made my blood run cold. Mother requests full custody due to father's emotional instability. Attached, a doctor's note forged, according to the signature line. She hadn't just erased him from my life. She'd built an entire lie to keep me hers. The floor creaked. I froze. Then a voice. Helena. I turned. My mother stood in the doorway, hair messy, eyes narrow. What are you doing? She whispered. I hid the letters behind my back, but she'd already seen them. Her face changed, a flash of fear, then fury. Put those down. Why didn't you tell me? I said, my voice shaking. He wrote to me every year. You lied. She stepped closer, voice low and trembling. You don't understand. He was dangerous. No, I said, holding up one of the letters. He was trying. You were the dangerous one. For the first time, I saw it, the crack in her perfect control. Her lip trembled. I did what I had to do to protect you. From what? I shouted. From being loved? She flinched as if the word burned her. For a moment, I almost pitied her, the woman so terrified of being left that she'd rather destroy what she had than risk losing it. Give me the letters, she said quietly. I shook my head. No, they're mine. Her eyes darkened. If you walk out with those, don't bother coming back. My heart broke a little at that, not because of the threat, but because it didn't hurt like it used to. I slipped the letters into my bag, met her gaze, and said, You already made sure I never had a home here. Then I walked past her. She didn't stop me. Outside, the sky was just starting to lighten, a pale, fragile dawn. I sat in my car, letters pressed to my chest, as tears finally came, not from sadness this time, but from something rawer, heavier. The truth. My phone buzzed. A message from my father. If you ever want to know everything, come to Copenhagen. I'll be waiting. I looked back at the house one last time, the house where I'd learned to disappear, and turned the key in the ignition. I thought seeing him again would feel like stepping back in time. But time doesn't go backward, it just shows you what you missed while you were trying to survive. The road to Copenhagen was long and quiet. The letters sat on the passenger seat beside me, a bundle of ghosts I wasn't ready to face. Every time I stopped at a red light, I glanced at the top envelope, my name written in his handwriting. Helena, my little star. It didn't feel real. By the time I reached the city, the sun was melting into the horizon. The air smelled of rain and roasted coffee, and for the first time in years, I felt small in a good way, not fragile, just human. He lived in a modest flat near the canals, above a bookstore that looked older than both of us. I stood outside the door for a full minute before knocking. When he opened it, I almost didn't recognize him. The years had carved lines around his eyes, but his smile, that was the same. The same one from the photo I kept hidden in a drawer all those years. Lena, he said softly, like saying my name was a prayer he'd been holding on to. I froze. 1,000 emotions battled inside me: anger, relief, longing. I didn't know which one to show first. So I just said, "Hi." He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment smelled like old books and paint. Canvases leaned against the walls, landscapes, portraits, one of a little girl with a sketchbook under an apple tree. My throat tightened. "You still paint," I said. "Only the things I can't forget," he replied. We sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. He looked nervous, like he was afraid to blink and lose me again. "You found the letters," he said quietly. I nodded. "All of them." His expression crumpled, a mix of guilt and relief. "I used to imagine you reading them someday. I didn't think it would take this long." "I thought you didn't want me," I said, my voice shaking. "All those birthdays, all those nights I waited." "I did want you," he interrupted. "I wanted you more than anything. But your mother," he stopped himself, ran a hand through his hair. "She wasn't always like that. When you were born, she loved you more than life itself. But after the twins." "The twins?" I frowned. "What twins?" He looked at me startled. "You don't know." I shook my head. My pulse quickened. "She never told you," he whispered. "Helena, you had siblings." "A brother and a sister. They were born early. They didn't survive." My heart dropped. "She told me she only had me." He sighed heavily. "She couldn't handle losing them. After that, she changed. It wasn't just grief, it was obsession. She started believing everyone would leave her. Me, you, everyone. So she did everything she could to keep control." I stared at the floor, the pieces of my life rearranging themselves in painful clarity. All her possessiveness, her cruelty, her fear of losing me, it came from that. Still, it didn't excuse the years she'd stolen from us. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I whispered. "I tried. Marin said you weren't ready." "She was wrong," I said. "I needed the truth years ago." He reached across the table, hesitated, then gently placed his hand over mine. "I know I can't fix what happened," he said softly, "but I can be here now if you'll let me." For the first time, I saw it in his eyes, the same pain I'd carried all my life. He wasn't a villain or a savior. He was just broken in the same places I was. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "We can start now." He smiled, small, cautious, hopeful. We spent hours talking. He showed me old photos, sketches he'd made of me as a child, letters he'd written but never sent. It was strange, rediscovering a father I'd already grieved. As I was leaving, he stopped me. "There's something else you should see," he said, walking to a drawer. He pulled out a small leather notebook, worn and faded. "This was your mother's." I froze. "You kept it?" "She left it when she threw me out. I couldn't bring myself to open it for years." He handed it to me. "Maybe it's time you read what she never said out loud." I held the notebook like it was something alive, fragile, dangerous. "What if I don't like what's inside?" I whispered. He looked at me gently. "The truth doesn't need to be liked, Lena. It just needs to be seen." I left the apartment with the notebook clutched to my chest, the letters still in my bag, and a storm gathering quietly inside me. Because somewhere in those pages, I was about to meet the version of my mother she'd spent her life burying. I thought the truth would hurt. I didn't know it would bleed. The train ride back to my rented flat felt endless. The leather notebook sat on my lap, heavy as a confession. My reflection in the window flickered against the blur of fields and towns rushing by, a ghost girl holding the story of her own creation. When I finally got home, I made tea I didn't drink and sat by the window. Outside, the rain came in gentle waves, tapping against the glass like a heartbeat. I opened the notebook. The first page was dated March 2011. The handwriting was hers, elegant, precise, the way she wrote grocery lists and birthday cards. I lost them today. Both of them. The doctor said it was no one's fault, but I know that's not true. I saw the way Thomas looked at me like he blamed me. Maybe he's right. Maybe I wasn't meant to be a mother. I swallowed hard. Thomas. My father's name. I turned the page. Helena's crying again. I can't hold her without seeing them. I keep thinking if I love her too much, I'll lose her too. But if I don't love her enough, I'll lose myself. Page after page, Her words slipped from anger to grief to obsession. Thomas says I need help. But he doesn't understand. If I let anyone near her, they'll take her away. She's mine. She has to be mine. Another entry, dated months later. I told the lawyer he was unfit. I lied. I had to. He doesn't see what I see, how fragile she is, how she needs protection. He'd fill her head with dreams and she'd forget me. I won't let that happen. My chest ached. The mother I'd hated for years wasn't just cruel, she was terrified. Consumed by loss, drowning in it, clinging to control like it was air. Further in, the ink turned shakier, her sentences more fragmented. She's growing up. I see her looking in mirrors. I see the world taking her piece by piece. So I remind her that she's mine. I make sure she knows she isn't perfect. If she believes that, she'll never leave. I dropped the notebook. My breath caught like a sob. It wasn't just cruelty, it was strategy. She didn't want to break me out of hate. She wanted to keep me small enough to stay. Somewhere between love and fear, she'd forgotten how to tell the difference. The last entry was undated, the paper wrinkled from water stains. I dreamed they all came back. The twins, Thomas, even Helena. But none of them would look at me. I tried to call out, but my voice was gone. Maybe this is what I deserve, to be unheard. A tear fell onto the page, smearing her final word. Unheard. I sat in silence for what felt like hours. The rain had stopped, but I could still hear it in my head, the rhythm of something breaking and trying to heal at the same time. My phone buzzed. A message from Elias. You okay? Still in Denmark? I typed back. I found out why she was the way she was. He replied, do you hate her? I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. No, but I can't love her the same way again. That night, I dreamed of her, not the sharp, cold woman from my childhood, but younger, softer, standing in a hospital room holding invisible babies. When she looked at me, she didn't speak. She just mouthed, I'm sorry. I woke up crying. At dawn, I took the letters from my bag and laid them beside the notebook. My father's words, her words, two halves of a truth that had finally met in the middle. I didn't forgive her completely. Not yet. But for the first time, I understood. I called my father. She wasn't evil, I said quietly. Just broken. He sighed. She broke both of us, Lena. But you don't have to carry her pain anymore. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I know. But maybe I can learn from it. Before hanging up, he said something that stayed with me long after the call ended. Sometimes loving someone means walking away before they turn you into their cage. As I looked at the two piles of letters, his full of love, hers full of fear, I realized my entire life had been built between them. And maybe now, finally, I could step out. The last line in her notebook echoed in my mind. Maybe this is what I deserve, to be unheard. I whispered to the empty room, I hear you, Mum. But I'm not staying. Closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's the sound of your own heartbeat, steady again, after years of chaos. A week later, I drove back to the village, not out of guilt, but because unfinished ghosts don't fade on their own. The same winding road, the same crooked apple tree, the same house that used to swallow my laughter whole. But this time, I wasn't coming home. I was coming to end something. My mother was in the garden, pruning dead roses. Her hair had grown whiter, her shoulders smaller, as if time was finally asking her to surrender. When she looked up and saw me, she froze, shears still in her hands. Helena, she said, cautious. Hi, Mum. The word tasted strange, not bitter anymore, just hollow. She gestured to the porch. I wasn't expecting you. I know, I said, sitting down. That's why I came. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us hummed with everything unsaid, the letters, the lies, the years. Finally, she broke the silence. Your father called. You went to see him. I did. Her jaw tightened. He fills your head with stories. He's always been good at that. No, I said gently. You were. Her eyes flashed with that old, defensive fire. You think I'm the villain, don't you? I think you were hurting, I said. And you turned that hurt into armor. The problem is, you used it against me. She flinched like the truth was a slap. You don't know what it's like to lose children, Helena. To wake up every day and feel your body failed you. I admitted. But I know what it's like to grow up thinking I was never enough. You made sure I felt that every day. Her voice cracked. I was trying to protect you. By destroying me? I said quietly. You wanted to keep me safe, but all you did was make me afraid of mirrors, of love, of myself. Her hand trembled around the shears. For the first time in my life, she didn't look powerful. She looked lost. Thomas showed you the notebook, didn't he? She whispered. I nodded. Tears filled her eyes. I never meant for you to see that. I didn't know how to stop being angry. It was easier to control you than admit I'd already lost everything else. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The sound of the wind moving through the apple tree filled the silence. I can't undo what I did, she said. And I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. I'm here to let you go. She looked up sharply. What do you mean? I mean I can't be your mirror anymore, I said, standing. I can't live inside the version of me you created. I need space to exist without your voice telling me who I am. Her lips parted, like she wanted to argue, but then she just nodded slowly. So, this is goodbye. It has to be, I said. For both of us. I reached into my bag and took out one of my father's letters, the very first one, written when I was 9. I want you to read this, I said, placing it beside her. He never stopped loving me. And maybe deep down, you didn't stop either. But love isn't meant to hurt like this. She didn't touch the letter. She just stared at it, eyes glistening. I don't know how to be anything else, she whispered. Then learn, I said softly. You still have time. I turned to leave. She didn't call after me, and that silence, the one I used to fear, felt strangely peaceful now. As I reached my car, I looked back one last time. She was still sitting there, the letter open in her trembling hands, tears dripping onto the ink. For the first time, she wasn't trying to stop me. For the first time, I didn't look back out of guilt. Driving away, I felt something inside me shift, like the tight knot that had lived in my chest for years was finally loosening. The road stretched ahead, open and endless. I called Elias when I hit the highway. It's over, I said. Are you okay? Yes, I whispered, smiling through tears. For the first time. I think I actually am. He was silent for a moment. Then, softly, you sound free. I am. Outside the window, the morning light broke through the clouds, spilling over the horizon, warm, forgiving, infinite. I rolled down the window and let the wind hit my face. Somewhere behind me, the girl who grew up hating her reflection had finally disappeared. And in her place, someone new had begun to live. Sometimes healing isn't about fixing the past. It's about choosing to stop bleeding from it.